Hi everyone, my name is Socrates Katito. I'm an agronomist with National Tested Seeds, and in this video we're going to be talking about tomato transplanting. The transplanting stage is very critical because it determines what you get 60 days away from today, which is day one. What's important first and foremost is to buy good seed from National Tested Seeds and to take it to a reputable nursery so that they can raise the seedlings for you. Normally, any professional nursery will have trays like this. They're usually 200 to 242 cells, and a seed is put in each one of them, giving each seedling time and space to mature and grow effectively. This is very different from the seedbed method, which creates unnecessary competition between plants and can be a bit wasteful in terms of lower germination rate percentages and things like higher disease incidences due to overcrowding of seedlings. Once you've engaged a reputable nursery, it's important to monitor your seedlings, visit frequently, and be on the lookout for any pest or disease damage. Some pests to look out for include leaf miner. That these seedlings have been affected, it would have been easy to see, but normally you just see some mining tails on the leaf surface that can be caused by the leaf miner itself, or in some cases it can be caused by tuta absoluta. Another disease to look out for during the nursery stage is damping off and wire stem. Normally what happens is that you get the seedling rotting right at the soil line, and sometimes this can be caused by some bacteria in the medium, and this can have some serious implications on the development of your seedlings. But assuming you've gone to a reputable nursery that knows what they're doing, you should generally get healthy seedlings. When it's nice and warm, expect to collect your seedlings in about 4 to 5 weeks time. When temperatures are cooler, let's say you're aiming for an early spring transplanting, it tends to take longer because this process can start as early as July, and seedlings can be in the nursery for maybe 6 to 8, sometimes even 10 weeks. It's just important to communicate consistently with your nursery. When the seedlings are nice and ready, okay, let me tell you what is a ready seedling. A ready seedling, tomato seedling, is one that has about 6 to 8 true leaves, that's about 15 to 20 centimeters long, and what is most critical is a seedling that is well hardened. The hardening process generally is this, whereby you are preparing the young seedling for field conditions. So what tends to happen is that the nursery raiser would limit the amount of irrigation that they were giving the seedlings, so that when they do get into the field, there are less incidences of transplant shock. Seedling establishment is quicker because the seedlings have been well prepared and well hardened for field conditions. From the nursery we come to our farm, and what's important is the site itself. You should choose a site that is well drained. You should do your land preparation really well, and you should try and raise beds as much as possible whenever you're doing tomato production. This is important because this facilitates drainage, it facilitates healthy root growth, it also facilitates the proliferation of your roots, how much your roots spread out and extract the nutrients that are in the soil. On the topic of nutrition, it's important to know the pH of your soil. Tomatoes tend to do well in slightly acidic soils. They don't do well in highly acidic soils. So your pH should be anywhere between 5.8 to about 6. That's the recommended pH. If not, it's important that you do your soil analysis in time, possibly a month or two before your actual transplanting date, so that you've got ample time to carry out any soil amendments that are necessary to maybe bring your pH for where it's acidic to slightly less acidic. it's important also to use the right base of fertilizer. And the base of fertilizer has to be applied before transplanting, because this is fertilizer that has to be at the base of the plant. This is fertilizer that the plant roots need to go down and search for. What tends to happen is sometimes, and it has serious implications, sometimes some farmers tend to apply the base of fertilizer after transplanting, and this affects the amount of fertility available to the plant. It also affects the nutrient uptake. So for efficient nutrient uptake, so that you get the best yield possible, you need to apply your base of fertilizer before transplanting at the base in the soil and incorporate it well. You might put a bit of lime, the type of which you'll be guided by your soil analysis report. You may also need to put in gypsum, which is calcium sulfate. Tomatoes really benefit from having a calcium supplement, both for the root hairs developing, and also to when it's fruiting. Gypsum tends to help with preventing blossom end rot, because you've got your plant really extracting adequate amounts of calcium that it needs. So your fertility and soil preparation are very important to get right before you transplant. Some of the base of fertilizers that you use include vegetable blend, compound C, high C, and these can be found at any farm shop branch nationwide. Right, so you've got your fertility right, you've got your land prep right, you've chosen a site like this one which is in full sunlight, because tomatoes really respond well to good sunlight amounts. What needs to then happen is your holing out. Now this is going to be variety specific. You need to follow the recommended spacing per variety. So for example, right here we are going to put our semi-determinate and determinate varieties, and the spacing that we're using is 1.5 meters between rows by 40 centimeters in row. Some varieties we're moving them a bit closer to each other, and so the range is 36 to 40 centimeters in row. Once you've got your spacing established, you hole out like you've done here, so that you can then transplant your seedling in the plant station. It's also absolutely crucial that you irrigate your site before transplanting, a process which we call bring your field to field capacity. This is important in helping your seedlings to establish quicker, and research has shown that you get higher yields, higher results, and earlier maturity if you transplant in a site that has been pre-irrigated as compared to a site that is dry. So you bring your field to capacity before transplanting, so that the soil is nice and warm and moist, so that you accommodate the young seedling and it establishes. And then, right, what you do, so you've got your seedling and it's plugged, right? That's another benefit of going to a reputable nursery that uses these seed trays. Your root system is nice and developed. That was the purpose of taking it to the nursery in the first place, to develop a strong, healthy root system that's undamaged, that's free from disease. This is important because this is going to be the powerhouse that extracts all the nutrients and all the water, all the moisture to feed the rest of the plant and feed the fruits that are going to develop. Once you've taken your seedling out of the plug, you go back to your plant station. You can make use of implements such as this. This is just a small, I can say farm-made pads, specifically for the purpose of holing out and transplanting our seedlings. You create a little hole, right, in the ground. The purpose being, you want to put the seedling in the soil with the seedling itself being upright and the root system itself going downward, right? The opposite of this, and this is something that can also give you challenges, is what tends to happen when you don't have these little holes, when when you haven't prepared your soils, you tend to squash and push against the root system, and the root system tends to form a J shape, a problem that we call J rooting, whereby the roots are now facing upwards, right? And this is of no use, because what that's going to do is just slow down the establishment and the movement of your roots, right? With tomatoes, it's also important to transplant them as deep as possible, because if you notice, tomatoes tend to have these little root hairs, right, along the stem, and when you transplant it deeply, what also happens is that you increase the roots, because they are called adventitious roots. This is just basically the ability of a tomato seedling to develop roots once the stem, a part of the stem, is in a conducive environment for root development. How does that benefit the crop? Well, the crop has more root hairs, the crop has a higher ability to extract nutrients and to extract moisture to feed the plant. So basically, that's what you do. You hole out, you place your seedlings, you make sure that they are vertical. Do not J-root the seedlings, because that will just delay the root establishment. And finally, you cover, and then you do a post-irrigation, a light irrigation after the first irrigation that we would have done a day or two before to bring the field to capacity. It's important to irrigate soon after transplanting, so that there's good soil to root contact. It doesn't have to be an excessive amount of moisture, just enough to help the seedlings to establish. Once you've done that, you also have to consider a cutworm control. This is normally a pest that affects young seedlings post-transplanting. So you can use any product like Caratizion, Lambda, anything that's registered for tomatoes for the control of cutworms. Again, visit Farm Shop, and our agronomists in the branches will help you choose the best chemicals for your tomatoes. Yeah, basically that's it. Take this process seriously. Ensure that you are well prepared, ensure that you get the timing right, ensure that you have healthy seedlings, and ensure that your land is well prepared.